Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Major Mohammed Ali Shah. It's my proud privilege and honor to be in conversation with a very, very renowned, responsible, mature, balanced, sensible, a very sane journalist, in fact, who needs no introduction at all. Many of you would have read her writings, her articles, her news clippings. Aaisha Sabir, she's a, people swear by her journalism. And she's an independent journalist. She has written columns for the print and various other things. And she had recently gone to Manipur. She was there in Manipur, incidentally, in April. Just April. And when she left Manipur around 20th April, about 2 weeks later, almost, the violence started, and there's no end to it. And then she went to Manipur once again and to cover Manipur, and she would be going again. And I wish her safety. And one more thing, she is born in Calcutta, the place where I was born as well. That I have to mention that, and where I further on went on to do my management. But anyhow, let's go on and speak to Aisha. Aisha, Jai Hind, and thank you very much for taking your time, Aisha.
Jai Hind, sir. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction and happy Independence Day. Yes, that was a very elaborate and precise intro. I'm very pleased with it. So, yes, I had, as you said, gone in April as well, which was just 10 days before the violence started. I had returned to Delhi. At the time, I was chasing a narco terrorism story. Poppy cultivation has increased in Manipur over the years, but it's not a new thing. It has gone on for some time, and a cartel like that or a drug syndicate, for it to function, it for so many years. I mean, I believed at the time also, and even now, that everyone had a role to play in it. And like closing that thread, I had returned with the hopes that in June I would return. But then, the violence took place and everything, and I couldn't go. In July, I went back, and I've just returned like 3 days ago. So, yes,
Oh, 3 days back. That's like very, very recent.
yes.
So, Aisha, so tell me, so you were chasing a drug cartel story in April, and
Mhm.
how was the atmosphere in Manipur in April when you had gone there?
Um, in April, so certain areas were inaccessible when I wanted to go and see the fields where poppy plantation takes place. It was absolutely a big no. And I'm not saying it came as a no from authorities only. Authorities would warn me that, you are a lone girl, you're going, don't go without asking for permission. And I'm like, permission from who? And they're like, the people there. I'm like, how do I connect? It was very difficult. Even the local drivers who were driving me around, even they were like afraid to go. And they were like, it's controlled by a lot of, I would say, militants. Not going to name any community here, because at the time I was not looking into community specific. It was just militants and armed people. And any sign of non, like, person who's not taken permission from the mentors, they'll shoot. Very high chances of that happening. So knowing that, I couldn't, and I had sent word that I would like to visit. Hence, I had planned my trip for June as well. Things were very normal at the time. Even though you'd hear very often cases of weapons being smuggled, drugs being smuggled, and contrabands that were caught. That itself was a very big number at the time, and which I was very shocked to find out. So, at the base of it, I do believe that that has a role to play. I'm not saying that is the only reason, but it did have a role at the time. So the stories of guns, weapons coming in from outside, they're true because that happened before the violence too. So it's not something new. Yeah.
So, I'm sure since you were covering the drug cartel story, you must have touched base, come across with the very daring gallantry award winning lady officer Brenda in Manipur.
Yes, yes, yes. I've
Right.
heard of her. I have spoken to her close associates also, and she had also alleged that the government is involved with it. And seeing that, she returned her award, as we know. But uh, some of the things she said, I would also back it. Definitely. It's just that I've not been able to write about it in paper, is because of lack of evidence that I've not managed to collect. So I can't put it down in print. But a lot of people unofficially have confirmed similar things, where a lot of I'm not here going to take any names, but several leaders, important people are involved in it, and leaders from, let's say, militants, from communities, from everywhere. You know, everyone benefits from it in some way or the other, directly or indirectly. Hence, it continues.
Right. So you came back to Delhi, and after 10 days later, the violence started, and you went back again after that. So, how was it now coming back in April and then returning back? Now, the state must be on fire. It must be,
Yeah.
yeah. How was the difference in the
Uh, uh,
atmosphere?
this time when I went, Imphal hadn't felt unsafe. You know, the city was safe, the outskirts were safe. Like, even though I was venturing and traveling on my own in April also, I didn't feel unsafe. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't hear gunshots. I didn't hear, you know, uh, uh, any kind of a chaos or like unpredictability, all of that. None of that was there. This time, however, it was. I had to be careful. I had to carry a bulletproof jacket. I had to, specifically keep a Muslim driver, you know, because Muslim drivers are trusted on both sides.
The
So,
Bengals,
and yeah, the
Bengal.
Pangals, exactly, the non-Methi, non-Kuki, right? So, I had to do follow all those protocols to remain neutral and safe. I didn't have to show my ID card anywhere, but this time, even crossing a few kilometers of a stretch, I would have to take out my ID card, then take out my Aadhaar card to for them to verify. And these are not government authorities, these are not officials who are checking. It's not even a defense personnel checking. These are just armed civilians who are checking. So it was quite a surprise for me personally, that it's a mob. I don't want to, at the moment, uh, argue with them over something so small. I would rather show and for them to feel comfortable that I'm a press personnel. So the mistrust I felt was very high this time. This is something I had not seen in April. Um, when you enter and the demarcation of that Kuki Zo area or a Methi area was not there. It was just that you're going up the hill, and that's about it. Nobody
And
would
were
question
these
anything.
personnel armed who
Yes,
checked your I cards? They were armed
yes,
with automatic
yes,
weapons like AK-47s
yes,
and oh my goodness.
yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
like hmm. So
आपको
they
डर नहीं
made
लगा?
me wait. Of course. But then, because so at the time, they would also question, some community, a specific community would be like, you have not written about us. You have not covered about us. Luckily, I had not published anything at the moment. So I was like, I am yet working on my story, and don't worry, mine will be a balanced story. I will definitely talk to both communities because I have no personal like I do not belong to one specific community over here that I will be partial. So you can have that faith in me, convincing them. And of course, when I came back, I did send them links of my work and showed that what I meant. And as journalists, we have to, like, look at sufferings from both sides. It was not about just Kuki people suffering or Methi people suffering. Some families are there who have just been caught in the crossfire, and they are suffering. They are the silent sufferers in this, I would call them. Nobody's really talking about them. So it hurt to see all that. And this time, Manipur was completely different. It is something I had never imagined in April. I mean, the Manipur that I saw in April, I experienced warm, inviting, friendly, and as usually what I've observed in hilly areas, people are nice and warm and inviting. This time, it was first identifying you and first seeing who do you side up with, and which side are you on. Only then you get to talk freely. So that has become a challenge, that maintaining your neutral aspect in it, that's a challenge now.
Right, yeah, I know because we are Manx, we are in the colloquial language, so to say. We are not from Manipur, we are neither cookies nor Maitis, but then for a journalist, again, the danger lurks where the journalist is at risk of getting accused. Oh, you wrote so and so, you spoke about so and so, you are supporting so and so community. You didn't talk about us, you're not supporting us. Whereas that's not the case. That's just not the
Yeah,
case. The journalist is going as per this thing. So it's a very, very thin rope which journalists have to walk. In fact, I was just in
right.
conversation with Tamal Sah. He did a
Yeah.
commendable job, I would say, in Manipur. He was there when the in the crossfire, and his videos used to go viral.
I
So
met him there, yes.
oh, you went in there. That's wonderful. So tell me, did you experience anything of that sort where you were stuck in a crossfire, and how, if at all, how did you get out of that situation?
So on August 3, the mass burial, which was supposed to take place, I had my sources tell me that there was mass mobilization happening on both sides. Through the night of 2nd itself, it had started. So, even though early morning the Home Ministry had sent out a letter requesting the Kuki and community to hold off the mass burial for a week, and it was officially called off. But the protesters had gathered, and since I was going from Imphal city, I was on the side of the Metis, the Mira Paibis who were protesting, and in Bishnupur district where the buffer zone is. So the mass burial it was taking place on the other side of the buffer zone, and I was towards the city side. It started with the women leaders or women protesters at the forefront. On the other side is the Assam Rifle and RAF, the Rapid Action Force, which have been deployed. There's a bulletproof van. There are armed men, armed central forces, armed civilians, and intermixed with that, very likely could be militants. You would not know because these looked like quite professionals, but they were not authorities. And the kind of weaponry I saw that day, and it started with women protesting and asking to go to the other side and saying that if cookies can come and do their burial on our land, which they consider to be theirs, part of the valley. So the barricade they removed, then the tear gas started, then the firing started, then the AK-47 went on. And while I was sitting on top of a jeep and taking pictures and videos, then I immediately jumped, took cover behind the van, then went inside the van when the tear gas became too much for me, then jumped out and took shelter beside a shade, where some of these armed civilians were also there, and it was chaotic. In a split second, everything, like the whole scenario changed, and it became very unsafe. And then I panicked after they started throwing not just stones, mortar bombs of some sort, explosives of some sort, and where I felt that it could go completely out of hand. And while I was running from that situation, I saw them bring sort of a country made launcher, not really an automatic one, but something that they would have made with pipes. And it was quite big, 4 men were carrying it. Um, so that looked that it could explode and cause a lot of damage, it not just be targeted to one person. And the kind of, as I was running, the kind of men carrying the sort of weapons they were carrying. They were SLRs, there were INSAS rifles, of course. There was, at one point, I have also seen M4. So that is a very sophisticated weapon. And seeing all of that, and through my sources at a distance, also, you could hear the gunshots, you know. Uh, Later on, I learned that that firing went on all day, late into the night, which started at early morning on 3rd. It carried on. Meanwhile, by the time we got back to the city, it was another chaos. They had robbed the IRB battalion. Around one AK-47, they took 9mm pistol. They took one 369, I believe, hand grenades. They took. So there were all in all, I think, around 57 guns and ammunition they robbed. You know, so while the forces were engaged in Bishnupur district at the periphery, you know, meanwhile a mob gathered in the city and robbed again. The ammunition robbery first we heard was only in May, and this was another one in August 3.
My goodness. So कभी ऐसा ख्याल नहीं आया कि भाई मैं कहाँ फंस गई, कहाँ पे I came here for reporting and what's this going on, and did that thought occur, did it cross your mind at all?
Yeah, it did. It did after robbing the first battalion, they tried robbing the second one, which was very close to my hotel, like 2-3 buildings away. And the moment I get back, and I'm like, okay, now I'm done for the day. Now I'm going to have a shower and relax. I hear tear gas like next to the hotel. I'm like, what is this? And then there I learned that the mob has been going violent around the hotel, which is North AOC area, a very prime location. And and they tried to enter the hotel as well. You know,
Oh God.
then I felt threatened that this is scary. One tear gas landed inside the hotel also. So then I felt that this is going unruly. And mob violence, you don't know. Like, it could be anybody doing anything. It's not one person or one organization. It is just anyone. You know. So that became a little scary. And hearing tear gas sounds so often, and that's so close to where your room is, then you start like, that's supposed to be a safe space for the night, and that's when it hits you even harder. So yes, at
My
that time I did feel
goodness.
that.
I've been a soldier, I've been trained for all that, for action. So there is a proper drill which we follow in case of fire: dash, down, crawl, observe, sight, fire, and we have to protect ourselves, and then only then we can fire. But I can well imagine the plight of a civilian who is not trained. For you, your weapon was your story, your a camera, whatever you would be having in your pen. I mean, I can well imagine your plight. Very brave of you. I must commend you. I mean, I really wish I was in a position to give you a gallantry award. I mean, it's quite a thing you've done, in fact. So tell
Thank
me
you.
one thing, you must have made some very good friends over there, I'm sure. Because the people over there are very, very friendly, very warm-hearted, very affectionate, very hospitable, very loving. तो प्यार तो बहुत दिया होगा आपको जहाँ पे from both the communities. Be it the Maite, the Naga, the Cookies, right? You just share some experience, like with some family or some personal friend, which you carry home with you. Any memory like that?
One is definitely, so I went and had dinner in my driver's house. He invited me, and he felt, I don't know why, but he felt honored. But the honor was mine. He didn't get it. I kept telling him that, I'm coming, I'm entering your house, I'm getting to experience your life, and, being part of your family and sitting with your family and having dinner. That's an honor for me, you know. Rahman Bhai, and he was very, very hospitable, very nice. It was a very nice, neat mud house. He had cattle, he introduced me to his cattle also, very sweet and innocent. So I felt that was very touching. Apart that, when I went to Kangpok Beach or Chandpur also, I saw people were very welcoming that way, even after doing my story, I sat with them, spoke to them, and even now we continue to talk, so they're very nice that way. Even Mehti's side, Meera Paibe's side, I found them to be very bold women and very, outspoken. Like on the front side, if you see, they'd look like, okay, one old lady, but the rigor she has, the drive she has, I was like, wow, I mean, this is commendable, and she giving me her blessings that, go do well, cover well, so both sides, they were very encouraging that way. They wanted their stories, their pain to be told. They want the world, the country to know what they're going through. And that applies on all communities, after all, when you go there, they're suffering, they're short of food, they're short of medicine, or they cannot find their loved one, they have no information, or they are waiting to do a burial, or they are waiting to, for normalcy. They're watching their children, suffer. Um, so, and seeing that, it hurt. But on the same side, they were also very encouraging. They were very, despite all that suffering, they were so nice to you. That touched even more, you know. So, yes, definitely, the hospitality and warmth nature that I saw earlier in the people is still there on ground.
Aisha, thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you and knowing about your experience in Manipur when you had gone there. And I hope your next trip, which is coming up very soon, I hope it's safe and sound, and God be with you, and you, more power to you, to your pen, in fact. And before we part ways, any last message you would like to throw to the universe, Aisha?
My last message would be that a lot of people have spread misinformation, fake news, which has led to a lot of mistrust. I believe that when you don't know, or you're not sure about the source of information, do not forward it. Do not share it unless you're absolutely certain that the source is right. You have to understand that the situation is very tense. People already aren't trusting each other, or even neutral people anymore. Hence, in such cases, wrong information adds to it. So I feel people should be a little more sensitive when it comes to that, and sharing of beheading videos or violent videos, it is not cool. If it reaches a relative of that person, if it reaches a close associate or friend of that person, you have to imagine how they feel. Some of these people don't know how to use cell phones, do not know how to see videos, but if some neighbor comes and shows it to them, so don't, like, it is not, I don't know, the kind of culture that I saw, a small cult, which is finding it cool. I did not find it at all. In fact, it is ghastly to show a video like that. You just have to see that it's someone that you don't know, so it's okay for you to see it. But what if it's someone you knew? Then, so that's a sort of sensitivity I wish people would have in terms of fake news as well as sensitive videos.
That's a very nice message, very, very fine message. Thank you, Aisha. I really,
Thank you so much.
and more power to you and your pen once again. Take care.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Same, Aisha. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Just
you.